I want to start off by saying I do think the Me Too movement is doing a pretty good job. We have a lot of work to do. Obviously, we've seen that with the Supreme Court nomination of Brett Kavanaugh. We saw how people reacted to Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, um, people calling her a liar, just all kinds of things. We've seen it. It is still a huge problem that we just are not believing women when they tell us that they have been assaulted. But so that said, steps for success. Um, I would include information and statistics that are up to date and as unbiased as possible. So, not done by a partisan group or anything like that, because we don't want to isolate anyone who doesn't identify as liberal or feminist, and going off of that, framing it as a societal problem more so than a men problem. Although there are the issues of toxic masculinity and things like that, framing it as a societal problem and being very intentional about how that's worded and how that is put out there so that anyone who is conservative or um, altogether out of touch with this issue are not immediately tuned out. I think it's also super important to be inclusive. So, hashtag Me Too started a while back by a woman of color, but it didn't pick up traction until white cisgender women were using it last year, the end of 2017. So it's really important to also highlight just how much higher of a risk women of color, transgender men and women, gay men and women, they are at a higher risk of assault and abuse just on average. And we need to make sure that we are amplifying their voices and listening to their stories just as much as any white, straight, cisgender woman. Also, proposed change in legislature, I think, is huge because the way that cases of sexual assault and rape are handled should not necessarily be handled the same as every other criminal case. There needs to be more information, more put into what is needed as far as evidence. We need to really work to understand the problem and understand why asking victims to provide evidence is such a problem, because many survivors don't have it, or they don't have enough of it, and it gets really tricky when it's your word against someone else.